Does your Chinese handwriting look something like this?
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Horrible, right? Well, that's actually my handwriting. It's okay, you can laugh at it. I know it's lopsided. I know it's like Donald Trump's hair, which, no matter what your political beliefs are, we can all agree that that toupee is not working for him. Look, I'm not ashamed of it, because that was past Sheldon. Past Sheldon sucked at writing Chinese. Present Sheldon, he's different. Ready to see? Drum roll. Bam! Just kidding. Anyways, guys, this is what my handwriting actually looks like now. Look. Today, I'll share with you the secret on how I was able to fix my god-awful Chinese handwriting. The absolute most important thing about writing in Chinese is all about proportions. Take this character for example, shi or si in Cantonese, for the word time. Which one of these two look better? Unless you like weird things, I guarantee 99% of you would say the right one. But why exactly is the left one so ugly? When writing Chinese, it's helpful to think of each character as a square divided into sections. Let's focus on just two of these for now, the left and the right. Most Chinese characters are broken up into smaller components that work together to show the meaning of the entire character, as well as occasionally giving clues as to what it sounds like. Let's take the word, for example, ma. We can see it's made up of two components. See, when I was a kid, I used to think that Chinese characters were just random drawings thrown together, but in reality, each part of it has a specific meaning. So for example, on the left side, we have the character nu. And this is what we call a meaning component. It gives meaning to the word, which says this is a word that has something to do with the word female. Now on the right side, we have what's called a sound component, the word ma, which means horse. But in this case, we're just borrowing the sound of that character to indicate what this character is going to sound like. In this case, we have ma for mother. And so those two characters are then put together to make up one word that sounds like ma, but has something to do with females, or in this case, a mother. So going back to drawing, how do we make this word look even? Well, here's what's interesting. To make it look balanced, we need to write the character unbalanced. What do I mean? In Chinese, you usually won't see an even 50-50 split. Instead, you'll usually see the square split into a 1-to-2 ratio. What does that mean? Let's break it down a bit. Take this word for example, yu, or language. We can see that it's split into two components. On the left is the character yan, and on the right we have the character wu. If we actually digitally write this character using the Kaiti font, which is basically the Chinese equivalent of Times New Roman, we get something that looks like this. We can see that the yan actually takes up roughly a third of the space, while the wu takes up the rest of it. They're not the same size, and yet the character looks
perfectly balanced, as all things should be.
Why is that the case? Why is one side bigger than the other? And why does it look so much better compared to if you were to write it like this, where we actually have both of them the exact same size? It has to do with the main stroke of each component. In Chinese, characters usually have a defining stroke that creates the outline of a character. It doesn't have to necessarily be the longest stroke, but the stroke that has the widest reach. Basically, whichever stroke is so important to the character that if it was made even a little bit shorter, that entire character ends up looking like Donald Trump's hairstyle. Let's look at some examples. The word may. If we make this top part longer, it looks like an oversized hat. But if we make this middle line the longest, it looks great. Or this word yo. Let's make that top line shorter. Looks horrible, right? Let's make the top longer now. That's better. In summary, the main stroke is what we base the proportions of the other strokes around. Of course, there are exceptions, but what's most important is the balancing. So when we write a more complex character, we need to first figure out, okay, what is our main stroke? Let's look back at that word yu. What is our defining stroke? Well, in Chinese, we have what are called radicals. They were originally used for dictionary indexing purposes. Kind of think about how dictionaries are organized in alphabetical order, but you only see them in kind of traditional Chinese dictionaries nowadays. These are your simpler word components like ren for person and ru for sun, and yan is one of these common examples. We can see here that it's the left side. So when we write this word, we want to make the left side a little thinner than the right so we can maintain its shape. Now what about the opposite? Let's look at this word, tai. The right side is actually the character shan, and it's used as a radical here. So we make the left side larger than the right to keep the definition of the character's shape. Well, what if the character has more than 3 components? Again, depends on the main stroke. A general tip is that if the right component has a horizontal stroke as its main stroke, that component is going to be slightly bigger than the other two. Take the word xie, for example. Our rightmost component is cui, and its most defining stroke is the horizontal line. So when we write xie, we want to make our cui slightly bigger. If the main stroke on the right is vertical, however, we'll want to keep our sections even. You can see this in the word jiao. Okay, but what about words that aren't left and right? How the hell am I supposed to split a word like cha into thirds? For words that operate top down, there's usually 3 different shapes: diamond, trapezoid, and inverse trapezoid. What does that even mean? Let me show you. It's not math class, I promise, all right? Diamond shapes usually occur when we have a horizontal stroke in the middle or a horizontal adjacent. So in the word cha, we're making that ren the widest part. You see that in the word an and lao. When we write these words, we're extending those strokes to define the shape. Inverse trapezoids happen when we have the horizontal stroke on top, like in the words bao and hui. So when we're writing these words, we'll tend to make them a little longer than the rest. Trapezoid shapes usually happen when we have a word with these radicals at the bottom. You see this in the word xia and ci. So we've gone through proportions, placement, and stroke length. I've said a lot to you, but you might be asking, does any of that actually work? Let's put it to the test. I'm gonna write a simple sentence, an inspirational quote by famous Chinese philosopher John Cena.
我很喜欢冰淇淋。
我很喜欢冰淇淋。我很喜欢冰淇淋. Which, if you don't know, means I love ice cream. By the way, I'm actually not a big ice cream guy, but John Cena is a famous Chinese philosopher, so let's study what he said. The first word, 我. We know that the main stroke is the hook on the right, so when we're writing it, we need to keep in mind to make that stroke bigger. The second word is 很. We've seen that kind of radical before. We're gonna make that right side bigger. The third word is 气. There's our diamond shape. The fourth word is 欢. We're gonna split this into thirds. So the right side is gonna be thinner. We're also gonna make sure our last stroke here balances out the entire character. Next is bing. Same thing as the second word. We're just making that shui just a little bit wider, and we'll do the same thing with this 一. We're gonna highlight the main stroke, the bottom horizontal line here. Finally, lin. We've got 3 components here, and the main stroke is vertical. So let's keep them all about the same size. And that's the finished sentence. Not bad, right? There you have it. That's the secret to how I turned my handwriting from Donald Trump's hair into handwriting that probably will make me get smacked upside the head by my Chinese school teacher. These aren't rules set in stone. Just like how some people have quirky handwriting, Chinese people do too. There's handwriting styles that range from the equivalent of bubble letters to messy cursive. Keeping these tricks in mind, considering the proportions of each character, will help you make your Chinese handwriting look so much more natural and, more importantly, not so horrible to look at.